Hey everyone, I'm Adam Sweet from Soul Astrology, and today we have edition number 17 of the Anonymous Birth Charts. This is a series in which I do bite-sized readings based on charts and questions submitted by you all. Let me go ahead and share the chart that we're going to take a look at for today. And the question that was submitted alongside this chart says, how can I be more assertive? That is a short and seemingly simple question, but as we all know, life is never that simple. Now, when I hear a question like that, the first thing it makes me want to do is assess the native, their character, temperament, and personality to get a feel for how assertiveness might play out in their lives. So we can do that by first looking at the first house, the sign occupying the first house, of course, which in this case is Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in Cancer here, co-present with the two luminaries. And we can also then look towards planets in the first house to get a feel for the native's personality. And we can, of course, look towards the moon for things like psychology, even emotions and the body can be found there. So when I look at all of those, I get a feeling, or I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that I think that this native must just be a real sweetheart. And that is because they have Venus in the first. It's angular. It's speaking loudly here. Venus is that planet that represents things like love and harmony. Then we have Mercury in Cancer and the moon in Cancer in its own domicile. And Cancer is that sign that is ruled by the moon and by Jupiter. And so it is a sign that is all about nurturing and unification, are just a few things that correlate with the moon and Jupiter that also correlate with the sign of Cancer, where it gets those significations. And then putting Mercury in there too, we have this picture of somebody who, as I said, is just, like a real sweetheart of a person, probably doesn't enjoy being assertive, and I guess you could say is more of a lover than a fighter. Now, another really interesting dynamic that's happening in this birth chart is we have Mars in a superior square to the ascendant ruler, Mercury. So superior squares in ancient astrology were said to be a difficult aspect, and that's because any planet that is in a square and in a superior square was called being upon the 10th, or also known as domination. So literally, this is a case of domination where Mars, the planet that represents things like assertiveness, aggression, conflict, is in its own domicile here in the 11th house of friends and groups. So literally this native is being dominated by the planet that represents its friends and groups, which to me could be a very difficult situation where this native is constantly finding themselves to be friends with people who are very assertive and maybe they don't feel assertive enough, or they are in groups that have maybe a tense relationship with the way that they show up in the world. So it's no surprise to me that this would be coming up in a question that they would bring to an astrologer. Now, the next thing that I want to take a look at that I found really interesting in this chart is the fact that their ascendant ruler, again, is in a contra antitia with Saturn. Saturn in this chart is in the 7th house of their closest relationships and rules the 8th house of entanglements with others. One of the significations of the 8th house can be our sort of karmic entanglement with other people in our lives. Now, you may be wondering, what is a contra antitia? Well, let's go ahead and explain that really quickly. This will not be a full comprehensive antitia and contra antitia lesson, as it is ironically, it is a hidden aspect. So it has a lot of hidden dimensions that we don't have time to get into today. But it's really cool because it's one of those things that ancient astrologers noticed, and it really does play a potent but hidden role in people's lives. And so contra antishas are signs that are mirrored across the equinox points. Antishas are signs that are mirrored across the solstice points. Now, we will not be getting into antishas today because what we have in this chart is a contra antisha. And the way that that works is any two signs that fall on opposite sides of that equinox point were said to mirror each other. So we have these two signs mirroring each other. We have these two signs mirroring each other. And finally, we get to Cancer and Sagittarius mirroring each other here, which is where we find Mercury and Saturn. And so this was thought to be a secret or hidden opposition. And it only works, though, when the degrees and minutes of those planets add up to 30 degrees, the amount of degrees we find per sign, or are applying to that 30-degree range within just a couple degrees is what most people give it. So if I add up 2 minutes and 58 seconds here and 27 degrees and 33 minutes, then what we get is 29 degrees and 91 minutes, which is applying to almost a perfect contra antisha in this chart. Now, to me, that is just another hidden, almost mirroring of that domination by Mars, but in a different way where we have that Saturnian distancing oppositional tension between Saturn and Mercury. And like I said, Saturn is representing this 7th house here by being present there, and it is representing or ruling that 8th house of our karmic entanglements with others. So it's playing a big role here also in how we relate to people, or how this natives relates to people. And to me, I just found it super interesting that it's almost this hidden or secretive oppositional tension between the native and other people in their lives. All right, let me go ahead and delete these drawings. It looks like a grasshopper laid eggs all over my chart here or something. So often when these dynamics show up in people's lives is when they are activated by timing techniques. And of course, that happens to be the case in this chart. So I looked it up, and this native is 37 years old, which means that they are in a 2nd house perfection year using the timing technique of annual perfections, putting emphasis on these planets here in that 2nd house. And I'm not going to share it, but you'll have to take my word for it just to keep the ball rolling here. I looked it up, and on a level 2 zodiacal releasing period, releasing from spirit, they are in a level 2 Aries 11th house period here with the ruler Mars in that house and sign. So this puts further emphasis at the very current moment on this house and this house, which are in a square to each other there, and is where we find that planet dominating the other planet and a lot of that difficulty arising. So to me, it's when these aspects show up in our lives and become very present to the point where you feel like you need to reach out to an astrologer and talk to it. That is the perfect moment to bring conscious awareness to it and know that it is, it's active in your life right now. And so now's a chance to work with that. Does that mean that you all of a sudden need to start taking, assertiveness training and completely change yourself? No, I don't think it means that at all. I think it means that you can even lean into who you are, probably even more. And as the saying goes, try killing them with kindness. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing there. I hope we did some really good work for this native today. I wanted to incorporate a little bit more of those technical aspects because they really seem to jump out in this chart and sort of painted a picture there, I think, of what this native is going through. So if any of you are interested in a birth chart reading like the one you saw here today, you can send me your birth data and a question to adam@soulastrology.com and we'll go ahead and take a look at it. And I just want to thank everybody for watching. These are really fun to do. I appreciate you all sending in your questions and keeping the ball rolling here. So reach out to me anytime. And thanks for watching, everybody. Take care out there. Bye.